Welcome back. I'm happy to report that all the recruits survived their training with Agent 007 and are ready to match the products they just learned with their respective facts. So, please join us as the recruits prove that these so-called troublesome facts are not really so troublesome after all.
Well now, that was an invigorating exercise, was it not?
If by invigorating you mean scary.
Or exciting.
Maybe nerve-wracking.
How about downright dangerous?
If you say so. Anyways, while knowing the products is going to be extremely helpful, they are completely useless unless you know which facts they are the products of. I'm going to make a list of all the facts that go with these products, and we'll use our powers of deduction to match each fact with its respective product.
Why are the 9s up there? They aren't troublesome.
Remember, it was Agent X who came up with this code, not me. Perhaps he found the 9s to be difficult. I'm quite sure he never spent time training with 9 like you have. However, since they are part of the code, we'll just have to include them.
Hey, it shouldn't be a problem for us.
Right. 9 times 3 goes with 27.
Excellent.
And 9 times 4 goes with 36.
Great work. Continue, please.
And we can match 9 times 6 up with 54.
Keep going.
And 9 times 7 with 63.
Don't stop now. You're almost done.
9 times 8 goes with 72.
Last one.
And 9 times 9 goes with 81.
Now that we've gotten 9's facts out of the way, how about we match up those 2 remaining facts from the 3's, since you just covered your 3's in the last lesson?
7 times 3 goes with 21. I know it's 21 because 7 and 3 are both odd, and odd times odd equals odd.
And I remember that the product of 7 times 3 is the age you are when you finally become an adult.
It'll come soon enough, believe me. Now, what about 8 times 3?
Well, we know it has an even product.
And the product is in the middle of the decade.
And there's only one even number in the middle of the 20s.
Which is 24.
That takes care of the 3's. Let's tackle the 4's. Which product shall we match 6 times 4 with? Remember to use what you know.
Well, we know the product is even, since 4 is an even number. All the products of even numbers are even, since both even times even and even times odd equal even.
And we know that 5 times 4 is 20. So, to figure out what 6 times 4 is, we just add another group of 4 to 20.
And 20 plus 4 is 24.
But we already matched up 8 times 3 with 24.
No problem. We'll just put 6 times 4 below 24. This isn't the first time we've seen 2 facts that share the same product, you know.
Right. 4 times 3 and 2 times 6 both equal 12.
Yep. And 6 times 3 and 2 times 9 both equal 18.
And having 2 facts that share the same product should make it easier for you to remember the product for both facts. Actually, 6 times 4 is the first fact that you haven't covered in one of your previous lessons. And we can determine the product of another fact we don't yet know by using the multiplication rule of order.
You mean the rule that tells us that if we switch the order of the 2 factors, the product will still be the same?
The very one. The same rule mathematicians refer to as the commutative property of multiplication.
So then 4 times 6 also equals 24. Awesome!
Now, what about 7 times 4?
Well, we know the product has to be even, since odd times even equals even.
We could figure it out by adding 4 to 24.
Let's see. 24 plus 4 equals 28.
So 7 times 4 is 28.
And 4 times 7 is 28.
What about 8 times 4? Will the product of 8 times 4 still be in the 20s?
It can't be. There aren't any products left in the 20s.
And there are only 2 possibilities in the 30s. What are they, recruits?
32 and 36.
So, which one is it? 32 or 36?
It's 32.
How do you know?
Since 7 times 4 is 28, all we have to do to find 8 times 4 is to add 4 to 28.
And 28 plus 4 is 32.
Good job, everyone. Before we move on to the 30s, let's have a recap of what we covered in the 20s. We have 2 odd products, 21 and 27, which belong to the facts 7 times 3 and 9 times 3. We also have 2 even products, 24 and 28. We now know that 8 times 3 and 6 times 4 both equal 24. And we know that 7 times 4 goes with the last even product in the 20s, 28. Think you can remember that?
Seems easy enough. We've got this.
If the rest of them are this easy, I don't know what's so troublesome about them.
Can we work on the 30s now?
Indeed we can. Now that we've matched up 8 times 4 with 32, and 9 times 4 with 36, that takes care of 4 set of facts. So let's start with the 6s. Notice that I did not list 4 times 6 with the other facts from this set. Can anyone venture a guess as to why?
I can. You don't need to list 4 times 6 because you did list 6 times 4. So it's not necessary, since we know that 4 times 6 has the same product as 6 times 4.
Exactly. And for the rest of this lesson, I'm expecting you to use this rule to figure out the products of the facts that are not up here. That is, the rest of the facts from the 6s, 7s, and 8s. Remember, switching the order of the factors is as easy as switching places in a line. Nothing else changes except for where you're standing. So what is the first fact up there for the 6s?
It's 6 times 6.
You don't know what 6 times 6 is, but there are a few things you do know. Got any suggestions?
Well, we know the product is even, because 6 is an even number, so all of its products are even. And we know that 5 times 6 is 30.
Which means we can find 6 times 6 by adding 6 to 30.
And 30 plus 6 is 36.
Which is also the product of 9 times 4.
What about the product of 7 times 6?
Well, it can't be in the 30s. There aren't any products left in the 30s.
Well then, let's review the matches we made in the 30s.
8 times 4 is 32.
And 9 times 4 and 6 times 6 both equal 36.
The 30s don't present much of a challenge now, do they? But be advised, when we're talking basic facts, not just troublesome ones, we have to include 6 times 5 and 7 times 5 as facts that have products in the 30s.
And the 20s would have the products of 4 times 5 and 5 times 5.
Now, let's go back to the fact 7 times 6. Tell me what you know about the product of this fact.
Well, we've already said that it's not in the 30s, so it must be in the 40s.
And we know that it has to be even, so it has to be either 42 or 48.
I'm guessing it's 42, because 36 plus 6 does not equal 48. But it does equal 42. I just did the math.
That takes care of 7 times 6. What about 8 times 6? Anyone want to tell me what the product of this fact is?
It's gotta be even, so it's not 49.
Then it's 48.
Yep, because 42 plus 6 is 48.
Be aware, many a recruit has found himself in a bit of a sticky wicket over these two facts. But for you, it should be plain as the Pike staff. All you have to do is remember that they are both even, both in the 40s, and that 7 times 6 is the first even number, and 8 times 6 is the last one. Now that the 6s are done and dusted, let's start in on the 7s. Notice that the first fact on the board from the 7s is 7 times 7.
That's because we can use the commutative property to determine the products for the others.
Quite right. Now, what can you tell me about the product of this fact?
Well, we know that it's odd, because 7 is an odd number.
And odd times odd equals odd.
And there's only one odd product in the 40s, which is 49.
So, the facts with products in the 40s are 7 times 6, which is 42, 8 times 6, which is 48, and 7 times 7, which is 49.
You forgot to mention 8 times 5 and 9 times 5.
Right, they may not be trouble, but they're still basic facts.
And they both have products in the 40s.
You don't miss a trick, do you? I'm to blame since I failed to specify that I was referring to the troublesome facts. Well, recruits, I hope you are beginning to see how useful it is to slow down and pay attention to the small details. One of my favourite detectives, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, managed to solve the most baffling mysteries by training himself to notice these fine points that others simply missed. The very thing that made him such an excellent detective can help you become a top-notch operative someday. Next up is one of the most notorious of all the troublesome facts, 8 times 7. Which product shall we match with this fact?
We know that the product is even, since one of its factors is even.
Both products in the 50s are even, which are 54 and 56.
I don't think it's 54, because it's the product of one of 9's facts. So it must be 56.
The only way to be sure is to add 7 to 49.
And 49 plus 7 is 56.
So 8 times 7 is 56.
Which means that 7 times 8 is also 56.
And I have a little chant for you to help you remember the product of this fact. It goes like this: 5, 6, 7, 8, 56 is 7 times 8. Now you try it.
5, 6, 7, 8. 56 is 7 times 8.
So we only have 2 basic facts with products in the 50s, 9 times 6, which is 54, and 8 times 7, which is 56.
Technically, there's 4 basic facts with products in the 50s. Once you use the multiplication rule of order, that is.
Don't go getting all technical on me. I'm trying to keep it simple for you. Let's move on to the 60s. We only have 1 fact left to match up in this decade, even if you do apply your rule to it. Which fact would that be?
8 times 8.
And there's just 1 product left, which is
64.
There's only 1 basic fact left that has not been covered in any of your previous lessons, and it's 4 times 4. Here we have an illustration that models this fact. Suppose I group these 2 sets of 4 in one group and these 2 into another. Now what fact do they represent?
You have 2 groups of 8.
And we all know that 2 times 8 equals
16.
So then, 2 times 8 and 4 times 4 both equal 16. Think you can remember that?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Oh yeah.
No sweat.
Well, troops, that concludes your instruction on the troublesome facts. All you need now is a bit of practice. I want you to pair up and work together to match the facts with their products. Afterwards, you are scheduled to meet with Sergeant 3 for one of his famous drills.
Well, this activity will be a lot safer than the last one.
Right. Even meeting with Sergeant 3 seems tame after that activity.
Time for you to practice too. At the Numbers website, located in the folder called Troublesome Facts, you will find a little activity where you can practice using your own powers of deduction. Just look for the drag and drop resource entitled The Troublesome Facts Part 2. Or, if you prefer old-fashioned games, like concentration, print out the cards that are located in the same folder. Alas, as Sergeant 3 constantly reminds us, deduction alone will not make these facts stick in our little gray cells. It requires some rote and repetition to make this happen. So 3 has created just such a drill for you, which he has placed in his special folder. Once you have mastered these troublesome facts, it is imperative that you work on building your speed with all your multiplication facts. Remember, these facts are the keys to becoming a successful math operative someday. So, make it a point to use the drill entitled The Recruit's Final Exam often. See if you can do them in 3 minutes or less. Sergeant 3 insists that his recruits do them in 2. Sergeant 3 has also shared his missing factors drill with you. Mastering these will help you with a ton of skills like division and fractions, and factorization and algebraic equations. The list goes on and on. We hope you've enjoyed learning your basic facts with us, and we hope you'll join us when the recruits return to learn the art of factorization using the Numbers' very own special brand of instruction. See you then.